Winter Danger, Chapter 10. "Look out!" Uncle Adam yelled. The lantern fell to the ice and went out. Cage dodged to one side, raising his axe as he moved, but he was too late. The big beast sailed by him, and as it went, one of the great paws scraped across his shoulder, and the claws cut through his buckskin shirt. He staggered a little. He could see Uncle Adam standing in the barn door with his gun raised, but Sam stood, open-mouthed in astonishment, his rifle dangling from his hands. Uncle Adam fired. Cage whirled to see the panther still running down the slope. "Missed, by thunder!" Uncle Adam exclaimed. Sam sprang forward a couple of steps and threw his gun to his shoulder. He fired quickly, and Cage thought he couldn't have hit, but the panther somersaulted in the air and fell to the snow. That was a lucky shot if I ever seen one, Cage thought. By rights, Sam should have hit the cabin door as likely as the running panther. "I hit it! I hit it!" Sam yelled triumphantly as he began to run down the slope. Uncle Adam said, "Cage, don't let him get too close. The varmint may not be dead." He turned to bar the barn door. Cage followed his cousin down the hill. Sam was dancing around the dead panther. "Ain't he a fine one?" he kept repeating. "Did you see me shoot him? As easy as rolling off a log?" "He's a big un, all right," Cage said to him, "but don't get too close. Maybe he ain't as dead as you reckon." "Oh, he's dead all right," Sam assured the other. "I shot him deader'n a turkey buzzard with the ague. Did you see me shoot him, Pappy?" He looked around. "Where's Pappy?" Cage looked up the long white slope toward the cowshed. Halfway up, something dark lay on the snow. "He fell on the ice," Cage cried. "Pappy!" Sam gasped, and they ran up the hill. Uncle Adam lay still as death on the hard crust of snow. Blood seeped from under his head and made a black pool in the moonlight. One of his legs was twisted so funny, Cage knew it was broken. "Pappy!" Sam cried again. "Get Aunt Jess," Cage ordered. Cage knew he'd never forget that night. The bright moon shone down on them and turned the snow to silver and the shadows to the blackest darkness. The wolves came to sniffle around the barn and tried to get to the freshly killed cow, and the heifer bawled the whole livelong time they struggled to get Uncle Adam up the slick, icy slope to the cabin. A heavy man with a broken leg dangling was almost more than the boys, with Aunt Jess and Dorcas helping, could manage. At last, Uncle Adam was in bed. Cage could see Aunt Jess was worried because it was bad for a body to be hurt and lie out on the snow that way. She piled quilts over him and made a kettle full of tea from mullein leaves and sumac berries. She kept a bowlful by his bed, and every time he stirred, she tried to make him take a little. She and Cage had splinted up the broken leg as best they knew how. Now, there was nothing to do but wait. In the early morning light, Dorcas made Cage and Sam bring what was left of the cow up to the house. There was mighty little left. She had been a bony old beast to begin with, and the hard winter and scanty rations had left little enough for the panther, much less for the Tadlocks. Dorcas stewed up the meat and bones to make a broth for her father and Martha. She gave each of the boys a bowlful at noon, but only one. "It looks like I'd ought to have 2 bowlfuls," complained Sam. "I killed the old painter. I followed him down past the piney woods and I—" "Hush, Sam," said Dorcas, speaking softly so as not to wake her father. "We've heard about that painter enough. If you hadn't forgot to put the shingles on the roof after Bird left, the painter wouldn't have got in at all. 1 bowl's all you get. You can eat turnips." Cage was startled. He'd forgotten about the shingles too, for a fact. He stared at Sam, and for once Sam didn't have anything to say. They ate their turnips, though they were hard and frostbitten and bitter by this time. It had been too cold in the lean-to for the vegetables to keep well. While Dorcas washed up the bowls, Cage and Sam gathered the tools and went to the barn. It was easy enough to see where the panther had scraped away the snow and found the hole they had covered with skins. The roof poles were far enough apart to let the big body squeeze through. Cage and Sam worked the rest of that day, shingling till their hands turned blue with cold. Cage had to hear a dozen times how Sam had killed the panther, but he didn't care. It was the first time Sam had been really friendly with him since he got there. Still, in spite of Sam's friendliness, he wished Bird was there. He wished some traveler would come by who could take a message the 14 miles to Bird. But who would come by in this weather? Anyway, there wouldn't be much Bird could do. He'd only be another mouth to feed. They'd be glad to see him, though, especially Martha. The little girl was so thin and white, it hurt Cage to look at her. She would hardly eat anything, and cried half the day for a bowl of milk. If'n there was just something I could do, Cage thought helplessly. If'n there was just game somewheres. This cold wouldn't use up meat so fast like it does other victuals. He and Sam combed the hills, but the 2 frozen foxes and the dead duck they found weren't fit for the hogs, much less a sick man and an ailing little girl. The cold was so bad they couldn't stay long. Sam's fingers nearly got frostbite as it was. Cage helped through the long, cold days where he could. He brought in wood and snow to melt for water. He kept the fire going, a bright blaze, to warm the room and keep them cheerful. But there was little enough for any of them to do. Mostly they sat by the fire and tried not to think of the sprinkle of meal left in the meal barrel, the dwindling pile of turnips in the lean-to. In spite of all Jess's teas and remedies, the cold had got into Uncle Adam's bones and given him the winter fever. He lay in his bed, bright-eyed and hollow-cheeked, and every day Cage could see he got thinner and weaker. If'n we only had fowls, Aunt Jess mourned. We might have been able to keep a hen alive till now, but Adam always said it was foolish to try to keep hens out here with possums and foxes under every bush. Cage could hear Uncle Adam's slow, hard breathing all through the room. For 2 days, the man hadn't known who they were or what he said. It had been nearly 10 days since he was hurt, and in that time he had only eaten a little thin mush. Dorcas looked up from her knitting. "We'll have some hens next spring," she told her mother reassuringly. "It'll be too late. He needs meat," Aunt Jess said. "Fowl would be best, but any kind of meat would do." She picked up the moccasin she was making for Matilda. "We'll have to kill old Britt when the meal gives out." "You mean kill and eat him?" gasped Sam. Aunt Jess nodded. "Not Britt," Sam begged. "Kill the heifer, Mammy. Don't kill Britt." "Hush, Sam." His mother shook her head at him. "We'll need the heifer for milk next year. We can get another horse easier than we can get another cow." "I couldn't eat Britt," Sam said, horrified. "I'd as soon eat me. Or Spring. You wouldn't eat Springer." "It ain't what we want to do," said Aunt Jess fiercely. "You want your pappy to live, don't you? Well, he's got to have something to eat. This fever's a-burning him up. He needs strength. The meal's most gone. We got no meat. We can't get no game. If'n we have to eat the horse, we have to, and I don't want no foolishment about it." Sam turned his head away from his mother's stern look. Cage could see tears in his cousin's eyes. He was near tears himself. What was he doing here, eating the food that should have gone to the Tadlocks' mouths? Why hadn't he been the one to crack his head and get the fever? If the Tadlocks starved, it would be as much his fault as anybody's. Oh, he should have run after Jared, though it meant freezing in the snow. The next day the sun shone a little. Aunt Jess sent the boys to Telford Craig's. She bundled them up in everything they owned, and some of Uncle Adam's clothes too. She wanted Cage to wear the match coat, but the thing was too heavy and cumbersome for the boy to manage. "Travel quick as you can," she ordered. "It'll keep you warm, and I want you back here afore dark. Ask Telford, can he let us have a little meat or some milk, and if'n I could get a handful of red root to make Adam a tea, I'd be obliged." Cage pitied his aunt, the worry and fear she tried to hide. Even a woods boy like Cage could see the hard times ahead. They were already eating the corn they'd saved to plant in the spring. If they had to eat Britt, they'd have no horse to plow with. Game would be scarce for a long time. The heifer, even if they didn't have to eat her, wouldn't give milk for another year. Aunt Jess anxiously watched the boys go down the hill and past the spring. The boys walked fast, for it was too cold to linger. Sam didn't even stop to brag about the game he could have shot if there'd been any game. He'd fetched along his pa's rifle, and once in a while he'd raise it and aim at a knot on a tree. But after a mile or two he quit doing even that. They reached the Craigs when the sun was overhead. Telford Craig let them in and threw a few logs on the fire. Cage thought Mr. Craig didn't look too pert himself. Cage let Sam tell what their errand was. Mr. and Mrs. Craig and their grown son listened while the boys stood by the fire. The Craigs had had troubles too, though none of them were down sick. Varmins got into the lean-to one night and went off with a heap of meal and turnips, Mr. Craig said. And since I was at your place, we lost most of our hens. Got one old hen and a rooster left. We can let you have a little milk, and glad to, but we ain't got meat for a fact. We hope to save the cow. We had to eat our seed corn, and a heap of others around here did too. We're eating ours, Sam said gloomily. Dorcas ground it up. I don't know what we'll do for seed in the spring. Oh, there's some fellers leaving next week for Salisbury to get corn. They'll bring meal and seed and meat too. There's food over there, if'n they can just get through the snow and get back. Mr. Craig rubbed his chin. Tell your mammy I'll have them bring her some meal. If'n you folks can hold out another 3 weeks or so, you'll be all right. This weather can't last much longer. That's what you been a-tellin' all through January, Mrs. Craig said, as she filled a gourd with milk. She gave Sam a handful of red root. In all my 50 years, I never seen a winter as hard as this. It wonders me how any of us have lived through this cold. She shook her head and got down from a wall peg some dried herbs. And here's some Solomon's seal. That's fine for broken bones. She hesitated a minute and then took down a small gourd. Here's a drop of honey. It'll help your pap get the tea down. When folks are sick, all them herbs can taste nasty without some sweetening. Cage could see the Craigs hated to part with the last bit of honey. Mrs. Craig wanted them to stay for dinner, but Cage made Sam refuse. We got to get home, Cage explained. Obliged for the milk. I wished it was more, Mrs. Craig said, but the old cow don't give much. It's a wonder she ain't gone dry already. Tell your mammy I'll try to get over there in a week or so, Mr. Craig called after them. All the long, cold way home, Cage thought about the gourd full of milk, the dab of meal in the bottom of the barrel, the last of the shucky beans, grown so tough now that Martha couldn't eat them. 3 weeks, Telford Craig had said, before he could bring meal to them. But Uncle Adam would die before then. Martha might die too. They'd have to kill old Britt, though they loved him dearly. And even killing skinny old Britt might not save Uncle Adam. Cage had a feeling old tough horse wasn't the best thing for a bad sick man to eat. And worse than that, his uncle and aunt would be in debt to all these folks. The men who would bring grain from Salisbury, the Craigs who had given their last bit of sweetening to the sick man. How would the Tadlocks pay them back? They rounded a bend in the creek and came in sight of the snow-covered hill. Cage looked up at the cabin. I'll leave, he told himself. There ain't any use me staying here eating mush and ash cake some of the others could eat. I got no right to eat their cornmeal. If'n I can't get along out in the woods, I'll have to starve. I aim to pack my truck this very night and leave.